pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
March 5th, 2013. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey have been satisfied by the inclusion of the date, time, and place of this regular meeting in the annual schedule and notice of regular meetings of this governing body. Such annual schedule and notice of regular meetings is posted at Borough Hall, is sent to the record in Liquid News, posted on the Borough website, and filed with the Borough Afternoon. Council members Brophy.
Here.
Carrick is absent for now. Hayes.
Here.
McCalmay.
Here.
Siliano.
Here.
Sam Chansky. Mayor Kelly.
Here. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, can I get a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, if anyone from the public has any questions or comments?
Kai Chen, 90 Teak Road. My question is on the benefits that will be paid at retirement for the police chief. My question is specifically, was that liability identified in past years? And if so, what future liabilities are there for in the town for other officials who may be retiring within the next 5 years?
It's public record. I mean, well, I would say the police chief, it's on the agenda. Future employees, I think, is speculation and not prepared anybody to discuss.
Your question specifically is
From a budget planning point of view.
okay.
Not
Actually, what the chief did for us and really for the residents is he was owed a certain amount of money of vacation time, stored vacation time and such, vacation days that he would be owed by retiring on April 1st, and I think it equated to about $240,000 in that area, give or take. He proposed that he would take that payment over a 3-year period. I'm sure this is beneficial to him as a tax purpose, but at the same time, it's actually beneficial to us as a town. So it actually helped us save about $50,000 in our budget this year by doing it this way. Future, I couldn't comment on any future retirements at this point, because I don't know what the stored vacation time and those types of things that are payouts when they retire. Quite honestly, if someone retires, seems as that's when we handle it. We were very fortunate that he gave us this option to pay him over time, and it's definitely helping us out this year and the future years.
So, as a follow-up, so from a budget planning point of view, there's really no planning made for these things until the official actually puts in the paperwork.
More or less, although with this one, now the next 2 years, we will be able to budget this. We know how much we have to pay him over the next 2 years.
Well, my follow-up question was, how many other officials, now setting aside what other officials, how many other officials may be exercising this, again, for planning purposes, not for any, I'm not really going to go into the other issues that people may or may not have objections to.
I mean, it's very difficult for us to determine who may or may not retire. There are several officers, I believe, that can retire. They have the amount of years necessary to retire in. Doesn't mean they have to retire, and it's really a personal thing for them as to when and I think what your question is
there
what happens if a bunch of guys retire at one
Right.
time? Are we prepared for that?
Yes.
Budget-wise, that's not something that we have built into the budget, but it's actually not a bad idea to maybe take a look at some of the officers that may be close to retirement age or have the years in, and maybe try to speculate and put a little bit of money aside.
As a set-aside.
Okay, that's a valid point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Terry, do you have something you want to add?
Yes, every year in the budget, there's an analysis of compensated absence liability.
Okay.
And that's sheet 3D, as in David. So that's, and the total value of compensated absences is 2,842,000. That's assuming that everyone leaves on December 31st.
Oh,
That's
now
what we
is
have
it
to
built
pay
into
out.
the budget, or is it just,
No, it's
an
not
amount
built-
that you know
it's-
may exist?
It's an amount that's disclosed in the budget document,
Okay,
but there's no dollar amount set aside.
okay. Thank you. Any other further questions? Seeing none, could I get a motion to close the public?
Motion to close the public.
Second? Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
John?
Thank you, Mayor. We're still dealing with FEMA on the Sandy storm. We've got another meeting set aside for the beginning of next week. We're putting together additional documentation for them. One of the issues that we have here is that they've broken the reimbursement into two phases, one for the cleanup and the other one for hard costs, salaries and machinery and things like that. So it's a little bit more difficult to put in for reimbursement, because all those things have to be done before they allow us to submit. So we're still looking at somewhere around $480,000 on the borough side. In addition, we've identified $103,000 that is still owed to us from the October 2011 storm. I spoke with two people down at the state police, two lieutenants this morning, along with public assistance, the grant side, which is also handling this. They're going to do some review. They were under the impression that some of this money may have already been paid, where in fact it has not. So hopefully by the end of this week we'll get additional information on that. I've discussed with you on a number of occasions the Twin Borough Field, that I applied for some reimbursement money from the county on old money that was owed to us that they were about to close out and take back to the county. I just want to let you know that we have received a check for $112,561 that's in our bank. So we need to discuss, and along with that, all the dirt at the hockey rink is now gone. So they're in the process of cleaning it up and taking a look at it. I asked Tomco, only as a contractor, to give us a guesstimate as to what it would cost us to mill and pave the hockey rink. They're not going to get it. It's going to have to go up for bid, but just to get an idea as to what it would cost. The other thing that I've talked as well about is the flagpole that needs to be installed there. So we're working on that with Gates to try and get a cost with regards to that. That information will be turned over to Recreation for their consideration to make sure they okay the flagpole and whatever else we're going to do there. So as soon as I get that information from Tomco, the approximate cost to mill and pave, I'll let you know. The Verizon lawsuit is still going on with regards to the reduction in property values of the building across the street. PSE&G, I think I mentioned the last time that basketball courts have been relamped with LED lights. We're still waiting for a date for the decorative lighting around the path to be done. There's 11 lights. The last time I spoke to PSE&G, I tried to get hold of them today. They had 10 lights. They're waiting for the 11th light to come in before they sent the crew over. And we're still waiting for the evaluation on and the replacement of the courts on the tennis court lights as well. We are going to facilitate a meeting this week with PSE&G to discuss the upgrade to the Veterans Plaza substation. As we discussed a few months ago, they're increasing the capacity at that station from 24K to 69K, along with some structural improvements. So between the police department and the building department, we're going to meet with them to see what their plan is. They're going to have to come to the planning board, the joint land use board as well, for some of those improvements. More to come on that. Any of you that still need help with the online training for that $250 credit, please let me know. We got a letter within the last couple of days from the Monmouth University Polling Institute and Graduate Program in Public Policy. They conducted a project to examine how New Jersey municipalities use their websites to inform citizens, provide service, and encourage public engagement. The examination included 540 municipal websites. As a result, Dumont's website is being recognized at an awards dinner for best practices for municipal websites at Monmouth University on March 21st. Special thanks to Sue and to Kathy Schaefer for the work that we do on the website. There's an awful lot of information that's out there. I know some people have issues, but evidently compared to 540 around the state, pretty good. So,
How many awards were given out out of the 540?
I don't know how many,
I think there's 40, maybe 40 awards.
in different categories.
Oh, excellent.
So I'm hoping that Sue and Kathy are available to go down to the award ceremony on the 21st. I'll be out of town. I sent in your packet last week a report that I did, communication of events. After a lot of research and putting together information, I submitted a report along with recommendations to the Mayor and Council. If you haven't had a chance to read it, it's kind of lengthy. There was recommendations in there as to how we should address future communications during major events. I outlined how we handle the EOC with emergency services, police reserves, fire and ambulance, and Code Red, and a few other companies to look at. So if you could look at that, I'd like to talk about that at the next Mayor and Council meeting, and then we can go from there. NJEIT interim inspection. Dave Hellrich, the principal engineer for construction control section of the DEP, conducted an inspection on February 28th, I believe, of material projects as well as contract documents. The inspection was to ensure that the project is being constructed and managed in general accordance with the requirements of construction documents and the loan agreement, also with state regulations. Upon completion of the inspection, no irregularities were noted. We received a check for $8,641 for the recycling for the month of January. And tomorrow at 11 a.m. there's going to be a storm conference call for the pending storm. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know and I'll give you the codes to get in on that. Oh, thanks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Council committee reports. Councilman Brook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last meeting, we discussed the budget and how we thought the opening budget would come in around $211 per household. We're introducing tonight, after some property evaluations, actually came in at $218. So, again, that was just the introduction. At that time, we already had several meetings. We've had 9 meetings in total. So when it was at 211, we had already brought it down into the high 80s, just through operational cuts and use of the surplus. Since then, we've gone through another round of cuts. Again, we have to absorb that difference that drove it from 211 to 218 through another round of cuts and the application of another $73,000 in surplus. Our number is now at $66.32 municipally. So again, we don't know what the county tax will be, what the school board taxes will be, but municipally speaking, we could say we are at $66.32
Per average household.
per average home, with average home rated at $307,000. Just to ground us in where we were, John mentioned the last meeting that he was at a meeting with other towns, and I think one other town was in the high 70s, and they weren't even sure they were going to be able to hold it there. So just relatively speaking of where we stand, I think we're in very good shape countywide. That being said, this is a fluid process. It's not just, let's hit a target number every year. So some other items came up during the meetings, and I'd like to bring up a couple of them for general consumption. In calling around on different topics that impact the budget, I got a feeling for what people wanted and ideas that I was offering, and I also received ideas that they were offering. So whether we can go through just a general feeling on some of these items. First, the committee had a consensus to not issue 3.5% increases to staff here at Borough Hall. The consensus was to give 2%, which is in line with what we did last year. It's in line with the new contract that we gave the police last year and the extension. They were about 1.75. The question that arose from it was whether we would apply the 2% to part-time positions as well. created mixed feeling inside the committee itself, so we wanted to bring it here to the full council. I don't know if we do a formal vote on that, or the procedure for that.
At this point, you just, if you took sort of a straw poll and then you put it into the budget and do that as part of your final adoption.
Okay. So can I have a show of hands as to who would like to have a 2% increase applied for part-time positions in addition to the full-time positions, which we have consensus for?
Just a quick question, are they usually encompassed with the raise? So,
Yeah.
They are, and I think where the question came up was that, you know, some people have positions, full-time position, then additional part-time positions within the borough hall. So I guess the question was whether they show the 2% increase across all job titles.
You're gonna have to evaluate on your seasonals and other, other people that aren't necessarily full-time employees, so I think it's probably something the budget committee's gonna wanna present as part of your final budget adoption. I think you're probably just taking the temperature here, as a general basis.
You know what the dollar amount is?
It's under $5,000.
It was under,
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah,
14,000 something, it's like 9,000 something, so an additional $5,000 would certainly cover the part-timers raises.
It doesn't go on, if someone's getting a stipend for a position, they hold a spot and they get a stipend, it does not include money on stipends. It really includes the part-time people would be the inspectors that are part-time, crossing guards, part-time, and anybody else that doesn't have a benefit package.
Okay.
So
The seasonal employees
Court.
and...
Seasonal employees, I don't think we gave it to seasonal employees, no. They stay at $10 and $12 if they've got a CDL license.
Okay.
They've stayed the same now for 5 years, something like that. So it has nothing to do with the seasonals, this has to do with the regular part-time people. Pardon me?
Like legally.
Yeah.
So any strong feelings one way or another?
Does the mayor and council, they got their increase?
Yeah, 0 to 0.
There was no discussion about that.
I mean, I don't know, we're at the number that we're at now. I mean, I guess we don't even need a final decision on this now, we just need it before the final adoption.
How did the committee feel about that? Was there consensus amongst the...
There's consensus at 2% across the board, and then after that discussion, it was, well, do we still do that for part-timers? That's where we had a mixed bag of opinions.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Fine with which?
I'm fine with a 2% increase for the, if we're doing it for the full-timers, I'm fine. You're talking about maybe overall for every employee, it's about $400 a month. I don't think it's a game changer. I know that these people work hard. I know that their expenses and cost of living goes up. I'm fine with the increase.
Great.
Same here.
Okay. So I think we have a consensus there.
Is anybody strongly opposed? I'd like to hear...
Well, I thought that part-timers fell when I was thinking the stipends, no.
Yeah, the stipends are not, you said, this is just based on their salary, correct? Okay.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with stipend.
Okay.
I also thought if people are holding different positions, they should only get 2% raise on the main position when they're doing two different things because it's a different category, not a 2% on every category.
Well, then you really have to look at each job and each employee
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah, but they're, all those jobs are part of their base salary, so it's based on the base salary, it's always been that.
All right, well, that was my feeling.
Okay.
The other topics, and obviously these aren't easy topics when it comes to possible impact on personnel, but there's a discussion of reduction in force in multiple departments. Of course, police officer is one of them. One or more police officers want to be reduced to bring that number of 6632 down to a lower number, as well as help impact next year's budget to a lower number. You know, I'll say that the number that we're at today, we're very fortuitous to have had a decrease in the BCUA. We wouldn't be where we are today without a $220,000 decrease, 7% decrease from BCUA. We can't count on that for subsequent years. So that's just only thought process in, now that we go to these additional options, which might seem like, oh, we're already at our number, why are we looking to push lower? That's the thought process behind it. So reduction in force regarding a police officer, I'm not, all these ideas came throughout the process. I'm not gonna say who initiated them or who was in favor of them, but if at least two people were in favor of these ideas, I brought them to the table. So reduction of force of police officer, the rec coordinator, and then the outsourcing of the ethics board to the state. County is not an option, that's new information as of this meeting. And outsourcing of the welfare department to the county.
Greg, if we get into in-depth discussions about these topics, do we have to notice these individuals?
If there's a consideration of actually, endeavoring to reduce forces, yes. In the abstract, like Bill just brought them up, it's not.
Okay.
It's not a rice type
I
of
just wanna
thing.
make sure we're not
It's
running foul.
It sounds to me like it's conceptual at this point.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then we're on solid ground.
Could we bring in the Falmouth who's gonna be the acting police chief? Could we talk to him and find out, his feeling on personnel, do they have enough, don't they have enough, as far as officers go, or what progress?
My personal recommendation would be have budget and or police committees, caucus with him off the record first, and then, come back with recommendations and have him come in, and give you his thoughts after he's put them through committee. If he tells you, I can't live without all these guys, then to me, it sounds like it's off the books, but, that's a judgment you all have to make.
Well, also, and Barbara will tell you this, at the last school board meeting, the public one, that had all the parents come in to discuss additional security after what happened in Connecticut. Some of the ideas involved deploying police officers at the schools and having some additional security in those areas. I mean, personally, we went from 2 years ago when everybody was pounding their fists and saying we should have a reduction, and it almost became, it almost became reality. But then I sat in that school board meeting, and it was almost a complete 180 of the mentality of the residents of this town. I don't know how you could have the additional security that everyone's looking for, and in my opinion is required if we're even going to go down the path of reducing the police department. I mean, that's, sitting in that room, you really got a flavor of how, what the residents want and what they expect, and I don't think it's possible by reducing the police department.
I personally think, of course, everyone talks going down to zero, which I pretty much think is impossible. I think $66 is phenomenal, and we don't know where we're gonna be at next year. If you do all the cuts this year, you really have nothing to fall back on next year.
Some of the other topics that you brought up, obviously, I think, I might think differently. I'd like to hear, some of your ideas, and some of your suggestions, but just, again, being part of that meeting, being an observer of that meeting, it's just not, it's not workable. So, that's
If I could comment on the police department issue. Like Bill said, we've had 9 official meetings of the finance committee. Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, we've run the gamut. With regards to the police officers, we had an issue where we had to drop, after surplus, we had to drop $593,000 just to get to 2%. We're now at 6623. Little scary. Little scary on having to think about the surplus for next year. But we're at 6623. With regards to personnel, if you would have said where we're going to be before we started the finance, I never would have thought we were going to be at this number. And I understand what you're saying with regards to the schools. Personally, I'm not in favor of having police officers in schools. I think today there was a police officer in the school and his gun went off. It was just
not in, don't listen to,
yeah,
not
no,
in school, but I'm saying additional patrol.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. The show of force is an issue. If we were at $98 and we needed a police officer on April 1st, we'd be able to save $7.70 per household. If we were at $90-something and we had nowhere else to go except to cut a police officer, you got to do what you got to do. We're not there. we're at 6623. I mean, if, and we spoke about this in length on Saturday, if, come November, we can formulate a halfway decent budget as to where we think we're gonna be. It wasn't the gloom and doom this year that we thought, that was mentioned last year. But in November, we can kinda isolate what we think the number's gonna be. And then, if we have no alternative, because we don't have BCUA to fall back on, or we don't have FEMA to fall back on, and we've gotta make a cut, then the suggestion is out there, and then you do it for January, so you get the full benefit of a cut for the year. But we're not there. I mean, my recommendation is we stay where we're at. I mean, like I said, I think we're in good shape. The other couple of items, even some of the personal items that Bill brought up, those are small ticket items. In order to save $1.82, because we made it real simple this year, it's a $10,000 cut. So we've got to add up to $10,000 in order to create $1.82 in savings from the 6623. And to be honest with you, at this point, I don't know whether it's worth it. I think maybe we table some of these things and look at it in November and then make the hard decisions.
And like I said, you know, I don't disagree at all. It's, again, the budget is fluid. Anything we cut before we adopt it will impact that number, that's 6632. Anything that we do after it, because it doesn't have to be now or never. It doesn't have to be January 1st, it doesn't have to be, you know, March 5th. It could be any point. It's gonna have a savings at some point along the lines for the town. It's just a matter of whether you think it's the right decision for the town. That's how people have to vote. So, you know, it's, again, 6632, I think my initial statement, you looked around countywide, we're very aggressive. Terry was very nervous and very upset with me, upset with Matt, upset with Raphael in the meetings. We cut $723,000 from the operational budget and applied 1.17 from the surplus. And that's how we got to this number today. And I think we all left the room happy. These items did come up throughout the 9 meetings, and I was asked to bring them up by the various members of the council. So they're on the table. I think we brought them for adoption anytime.
Well, these are things that we should all sit back and think about and see if we want to go further, or if we're comfortable where we are. Actually, we are losing 1 police officer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And obviously we'll be renegotiating a new contract with the new chief. Hopefully we can save a little money there as well. I don't know if the contracts are as lucrative as they used to be, but we'll go down that a little later. I commend you and all the finance committee for a very good job in 9 meetings, and I know, because a lot of times I would go by here on a Sunday morning and see some cars and go home. I'm glad I'm just going for coffee. So,
Quick question, Joe, just, for reference, do you know what that BCUA, reduction was attributable to? Is it just low flow for the borough last year, or?
I don't know, I mean.
Do we know what that was from?
I spoke to them, and they were kind of shaking their head too. It has to do with flow, because that's what the basis of the number is. But I can tell you, when they finally talked to me, the day that they were releasing the number, they said, you are the highest reduction in Bergen County, with about 7%.
So that 2 per flush program is going on.
I try to keep that low key.
I represent a sewer
maybe we
authority.
should check back and we've been overcharged for a bunch of years.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's really
Sounds pretty good, whatever it is. Hope they didn't make a mistake in that.
That's exactly what I'm driving
They
at.
said, they read the meter wrong or
Is
something.
it
Well, we got the bill.
You can,
We got the bill, and it's
if it's
the
something
same
you can
number.
duplicate, or if it's just an anomaly, or what the story is.
We're gonna talk more. We're having a meeting with them, I think, in a month.
Mayor, first, thank you, the residents do my, thanks to stop showering so much.
Yeah.
Brushing your teeth so long, and, you know, running water.
Yeah.
Smell the town.
Yeah, no more selling that stuff. Just to reiterate the, mayor's, I commend you guys also, and Terry and John. I know how hard it is, Bill. I really appreciated the calls and the follow-up you did with all of us. You guys really did a tremendous job.
Thank you.
Anything further?
That was it for my report, thank you.
Councilman Hayes, committee report?
Well, the only report I really have is the land use board met on the 26th of February. They had 2 formal hearings. One I'm sure everybody is aware of, the St. Mary's parking fiasco, if you wanna call it that, where they had 30 permits out, but they only were supposed to give out 25. It's been an ongoing thing, between parking in the fire zones and the residents and the church going back and forth. Well, apparently they finally came, they got together with the church, and they loaned them some spots and stuff like that, and, through nutrition, as the residents move, no, you used the wrong word, you know.
Nutrition.
That's it, okay.
And nutrition.
All right, well, what's gonna happen is, they originally handed out far too many permits, so that was the big problem, so they've worked that out. And they assured the board that, they will not issue any more, and any of those people that move out that have that permit, they will lose that permit. And then if it ever comes down to where they're under 25, they're gonna do like a lottery system. So they feel that they finally have handled the problem. It was brought up, what about new people that move in, that have cars? They're going to explain to the people, whoever moves into the building now, as of, that meeting, that there's no parking facilities for them. If they wanna park, they have to make their own arrangements. I suggested that they also tell the new residents that we have, no overnight parking between April and October. I should say October and April. And, the guy was a little reluctant with that, but then he finally seemed to agree to that. This way the new tenants wouldn't be taken, on the street, so they feel that they've got a working plan going now that it should resolve the problem. The other, when they had the old White House, I don't know if you're familiar, on 29 West Quackenbush down here, when the band, there was an estate sale, where the guy that bought Dumont Glass, the building Dumont Glass, he apparently owns Dumont Glass plus the house next to it, well, he bought this house from an investor. In the zone they are, it's like commercial as well as art. So, it originally is zoned for like businesses on the bottom, residents on the top, but this was originally a two-family that was then taken off and converted to a one-family. So what the guy wants to do is just convert it back to a two-family, so they gave him a variance to do that, because they felt that it wouldn't impact the neighborhood. It's basically not the same because the house next to it was a business. So those were the only two formal hearings I had. The only thing which I mentioned to Ellen, they may want to see if they, I should say, right? Yeah. All right, the chairman was, apparently he's been contacted by some neighbors and stuff, and he briefly discussed it. I don't know if he's going to make a formal writing of it. He wanted to know something about as far as the, in the account that they have to put for the engineers and the planning, or what do they call it? The escrow account. Apparently some residents came up to him and they said they don't have like $5,000 to leave with the town if they just want to put a deck up or change a couple of windows or this kind of stuff. So he may be in contact with you, John, or us, to see if you could make somewhat of a different scale, like on big production, dormers and headers and extensions, stuff like that, maybe the full price of the escrow, but on small minor things you need variance, like fences and poles and walls. It's pretty tough for the homeowner to come up with $3,000 to $5,000 to sit there until they finish the project. So I think that's something he's going to bring up to us. That's about it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman O'Connor.
No report.
Councilman Siciliano?
I attended the last school board meeting, general business. I know that they're working through their budgetary issues as well, and there is a public meeting scheduled for when, ladies?
28th.
Of March 28th, and is that at the Durbin Center, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. They'll have a public meeting where they'll present their budget, and that's all I have.
Thursday, 28, you said, of March?
March 28th.
Yeah, it's going to be in the,
At the Durbin Center.
Councilwoman Zamichowski?
The only thing is last night there was a, health meeting, and again, there wasn't a quorum. It's been 9 months since our last meeting. Some of us showed up. The mayor and I are gonna have to discuss this and figure out what we could do, because people show up and...
Yeah, I wasn't aware that it was going on for this long.
Well,
Someone
they're
from the-
quarterly meetings,
Right.
so it's been 9 months.
Yeah, we should sit down with the
Yeah.
chairman and find
I
out.
think you got a copy of the, ordinance,
Yes,
make sure
yeah.
it's at your stores. Thank you.
I will
What makes a quorum, though?
There's supposed to be 7 members, there's only 6 right now, and an hour before the meeting, one person sent an email that he couldn't come. 5 minutes later, someone else sent an email and then one other person just didn't show up.
We got your people?
Well, myself, but I don't count, yeah.
And we actually have, there's one or two members that have approached me that really
One of which didn't
wanna-
show, she was the one who
Oh,
didn't
she
show up.
didn't show up, all right.
And if there's habitual people that don't show up for the meetings,
They can be replaced.
yeah, we should examine, you know, what the actual.
Well, I'll reach out to these people and find out, do you still wanna be on it? Maybe they've just been on it a while and they're not really interested anymore. I mean, you know, again, we'll have it aside and.
That was, and I wasn't gonna bring it up here, but, President Matt at the end of the meeting asked Mary to send an email, send a letter to everybody and ask them if they're interested.
Okay, great, that's perfect. Yeah, just to get an idea, 'cause maybe, you know, again, maybe some have been on it for a while and
Right.
there's no real interest anymore, or maybe they feel there aren't any issues to bring up, but, I mean, in today's day and age, health is, is an important issue that should be something that we should be, be addressing. And I'm always getting things for, like, we have wellness campaigns in the county, and, was it one I was getting? Skinny something?
Yeah, I know.
So these are things that really the health department should take over, embrace, and try to get the community involved in.
The mayor's wellness, whatever.
That's fine. Anything else?
No.
That's it. I just wanted to, I guess, congratulate, Chief Benizio on his, retirement, and, wish him all the best, and, served many years, in the town of Dumont, but not only as chief, but as a patrolman. I've known him since I was a kid, 'cause he grew up, around the block from me, family of Marines, so, I wish him all the best, and obviously we'll talk more, and hopefully he'll have a great retirement party that we'll be invited to. Okay, let's, go to the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm good. It was a quiet month, for us. Couple of, inquiries from residents on what's being finished up with, phase two. Mr. Bakari at 103 East Linden had some issues with the sidewalk, believe those were addressed. Right, and, Mr. and Mrs. Bruno, they were over on East one large, right, they had some issues with the fence. I heard from Antonio's today. We just have to hammer out what the agreement was with them. They actually, with a couple that has a special needs child, and there was some disagreement or difference of opinion on what was agreed to as far as their fence goes, so I gotta follow up with Antonio on it, because I believe that was one with a special easement rider, so those are the only two things that have really come up. Otherwise, I believe that is closing out smoothly. Twinborough Field, we had a few comments for the engineer. We're gonna get that deed notice finalized hopefully this week. Once it's executed by the mayor, we'll send it in for recording, and then that will be closed out. And we're just waiting on the generator awarded at the last meeting for insurance and bond information from the contractor prior to the borough engineer issuing notice to proceed, and then that'll go forward, and that's all we have this month.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 61, oh, I'm sorry, let me start again. All items with an asterisk are considered to be non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There may be further discussion prior to the vote upon request of a member of the public or a council member. Also, any item may be removed for further discussion or for roll call vote, in which case the item will be removed and considered in its normal sequence as part of the general order of business. Number 61, approval of St. John's Columbiette's on-premise 50/50 cash raffle to be held April 7th. Number 62, approval of St. John's Columbiette's on-premise merchandise raffle to be held April 7th. Number 63, approval of St. Mary's on-premise 50/50 cash raffle to be held June 5th through June 8th. Number 64, approval of St. Mary's off-premise 50/50 cash raffle to be held June 5th through June 8th. Number 65, approval of St. Mary's Carnival Games raffle to be held June 5th through June 8th. Number 66, approval of Vantage Health System on-premise merchandise raffle, which was held October 24th, 2012. Number 67, approval of hiring of 4 DPW seasonal employees employees, $10 per hour. Number 68, authorization of execution of Free City USA recertification application by the mayor. Number 69, approval of mutual aid plan and rapid deployment force. Number 70, appointment of Christopher Martin Esquire of the firm Morrison Mahoney as alternate municipal prosecutor. Number 71, Chief Brian Venezio, acceptance of letter of intent to retire. Number 72, Captain Joseph Falborn, authorization to assume position of officer in charge. Number 74, approval of Prado Limited. 73 is down here, in your budget,
Sorry.
these are add-ons, so. Approval of Prado Limousine Service to operate business in Dumont. Number 75, approval of DHS Athletic Boosters on-premise 50/50 cash raffle to be held May 4th.
Any comments or questions from members of the council? Councilman?
On 74, is Prado Limousine, are they a new company?
Yes.
Okay, have we done any background check on,
The police did a check, they checked their limousines, they applied for a business registration and paid the fees.
and I assume that we've checked into their insurance?
And they have their insurance.
They do, okay. And on 67, hiring 4 seasonal employees, which I think is great. How did we go about selecting these 4 individuals?
There are 4 that have returned employees. As long as they pass the muster from the prior years. I think 3 out of the 4 have been here more than 1 year prior, and 1 was here last year. So they applied to come back.
Are we paying them less this year? I don't
No, actually, it's $10 per hour, but if they have a CDL license, it's $12 per hour.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, at least 2 of them have CDLs, I'm not sure about the other 2.
Thank you.
All right, on 1371, you said that you checked all those numbers?
Yes.
That's official, on the sick days, the vacation days, the term leave, all that stuff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the chief?
You done?
Yeah.
Sorry? 69, is there any cost to the borough for this mutual aid agreement?
No.
No? And does it impact our response with Bergen Hill, Crest Hill, and Milford, and that?
No.
Just on 70, I'll comment, Chris Martin, I know is a prosecutor in at least 1 other town. I've seen him in action, although I don't know how much word gets here because I think Carter is pretty reliable, but he's definitely a very solid backup as the alternate municipal prosecutor. Does a very good job.
No, on that note, for my part, I've seen him too. I've worked with him. He's definitely in Ramsey and a couple other places. He's very good.
Anything else? Okay, the motion.
Yeah, on 72, Joseph Falborn, he accepted the position, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're going to make it official tonight, but he's been spoken to. And
Oh, okay, okay. I just figured it's important to make sure he wants it. Before we pass it. Okay.
Motion to open the public?
Yes, motion to open to the public on consent agenda items.
You first, right? All right, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
At this moment, if anyone from the public has any comments or questions just on the consent agenda, please state your name and address for records. Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to pass all the resolutions on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Bill?
Yes, second.
Yeah, he talks real low, I know. Big guy, he talks like little guy.
Good, yeah.
Council members Wilkie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Richelme?
Yes.
Siciliano?
Yes.
Donchansky?
Yes.
He's another one that talks now.
Okay, ordinance 1452, amendment to chapter 21, section 5, parking regulations.
My understanding, Sue, this has to do with this section up here in the apartments, correct?
Right, everybody else, this is being enforced already.
Wait, where is it?
Dumont Code, no person shall park any vehicle on the streets of the borough between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. from October 15th through April 15th. Can I get a motion to waive the formal reading?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just said, well, did we work out the problems with the guy that was on Washington Avenue, Bergen? We did, okay.
Well, we're working it out.
All right, okay. That's my only question. Any other complaints we had for the residents? Okay.
Any discussion from the council?
Yeah, I mean, as discussed in prior meetings, I understand and fully agree that this needs to be implemented, but it does obviously cause some problems, or result in I'm not saying it causes, but results in problems for some of the residents, as discussed in prior meetings. I know that John's trying to work, through those with the residents on a case-by-case basis, but, hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that that's really the way to proceed. Obviously, as Councilman Hayes brought up, we had a resident come. That was more with the permit parking as opposed to the overnight parking. But I think that's probably the best way to handle it, is on a case-by-case basis, and hopefully we don't get inundated, but,
I'll be knocking on his door in April when my 2 kids get their permits.
And that's we don't have a lot of space in our driveways anymore for the amount of cars.
Yeah, you don't want those Maseratis sitting in your streets.
Okay, can I get a motion to pass on the first reading? Can I get a motion to be serious for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Did I get a motion?
Bill?
Okay, second?
Second.
Council members Brophy,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
McCelney,
Yes.
Stelliano,
Yes.
Salvachansky.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1453, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Can I get a motion to waive the formal reading?
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion from members of council? Motion to pass on the first reading,
Motion to pass on the first reading.
and second, please.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Council members Brophy,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
McCelney,
Yes.
Stelliano,
Yes.
Salvachansky.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I guess we've already discussed the budget, but are there any comments or questions on the introduction of the 2013 municipal budget?
First, I'd like to discuss in more detail some of those items on your punch list. So I don't know if you want to do it one-on-one, or if we want to do it as a group.
Yeah, I mean, if we do it as a whole group, we have to just sunshine it, right?
Yep.
It's,
I think at this point,
We'll
because
take it back.
we're all now aware, it's a kind of a short punch list, so we're aware of what issues are there and what possibilities, I guess, are there, and I would behoove each council member to reach out to Councilman Brophy with their opinion on what those particular items and how they feel about it. And I think that would be probably one of the best ways to go about it. And then if we have a hit on any one or all of them, then we obviously have a meeting or have it discussed at our next meeting.
Can I just make a suggestion too, Bill, just to help you out with that? With regards to the personnel, we'll put together a dollar number effective April 1st, so at least we know what that savings would be if we did something from April 1st on.
so if we do something by next public meeting of March,
Yeah.
we'll know the savings.
Yeah, okay, and then this way, at least you know what the number is, because if it's, it might be if we don't exceed the $10,000 to save $1.82, it might not be worth it to some, but, all right, I'll get that for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Any further comments, questions? Can I get a motion to open to the public regarding the introduction of the 2013 municipal budget?
I make a motion open
Second.
public.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this moment, if there's anyone from the public who has any comments or questions on Resolution 1373, introduction of the 2013 municipal budget? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to accept or pass Resolution 1373, introduction of the 2013 municipal budget?
Motion for 1373.
And a second?
Second.
Council members Brophy,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
McCelney,
Yes.
Stelliano,
Yes.
Salvachansky.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to open to the public for any general comments or questions?
Motion open the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, if there's any questions or comments from members of the public regarding anything? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Do you want to do the meeting change,
Couple things.
Oh, well, yeah, we have a closed session, okay.
the meeting change?
Yeah, just for record, next meeting is scheduled for the 19th. It's going to be, the 26th. We'll post that.
6 p.m.
The 19th, several members of the council will not be able to attend, so we're gonna push it to the 26th, so we can all be here.
Six p.m.
At 6 p.m.
I
as
might be
opposed-
late, the 26th at 6 p.m., but
Okay.
I should be here at some point.
Close session.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from the meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss personnel, police department, whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires the confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. Be it resolved that the public be excluded from this meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion for closed session.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmembers Brophy?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
McCelmy?
Yes.
Juliana?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You know, it's not nice to pick on the handicap.